Well, welcome everyone. It's so excellent to look out on this crowd. Everyone looks so fancied up, is looking so good. We've got a great audience here tonight. It's amazing to see so many familiar faces, and there's such a warm energy that comes out of this crowd. There's something about our industry when we get together. There's good vibes all around. My name is Anthony Vaccaro. I am the president of the Northern Miner Group. Now, when you do get someone from the media to MC a fine gala such as this, you have to expect there's going to be a little bit of fair comment that goes along with it, okay? Now, seeing as most people are only interested in commentary that's on Twitter these days, which is seldom very fair, but regardless, we thought we'd try something a little bit different this year, okay? So here's what we're going to do. We have a live stream. It's going to some VIPs that cannot be here in person, but they're going to be able to correspond with us. They can put up their thoughts on Twitter, and if there's anything really interesting there, then we're going to fire it up on the screen, and we'll include, already, the first one. The first one is already, okay, well, we did hear that Elon might be joining us. He wants to suck up to the mining industry, but no, Elon, excellent. We're really happy you're here and are tuning in, and please enjoy the evening. And I hope all of you are enjoying yourselves thus far. By now, you should have had a few aperitivos into you, a few mixed cocktails. I myself have sworn off the stuff. I made a resolution, and I'm sticking with it. No more mixed drinks for me. This is straight vodka. It's the only thing that is getting me through these crazy times that we're all seem to be living through these days. Oh, Elon again, eh? Well, okay, I agree. D'accordo, as they say in Italian. All right, very good. All right, before we really get into it, I'd like to take a moment to compliment the staff here at Palais Royal. They've been doing a fantastic job. Yes, absolutely. Of course, you have to compliment the staff profusely these days, otherwise your job site ends up looking like Pearson Airport, which I'm sure some of you can relate to. I know there's some people coming in from out of town, so on behalf of Torontonians, we apologize. There's others that would like to be here, but I'm told they're still waiting for their luggage, which is not good. But look, it's not only labor shortages that have been a big challenge for business leaders this year. Of course, it's been a hell of a year, right? I mean, just in January in this city, we were still in lockdown. It wasn't that long ago. We went from pandemic to war to stagflation to recessionary fears. It's taken a toll on the industry. We see it in the market valuations, right? Could always be worse. You could be in the mining industry and in media at the same time. I mean, that's a bit of a rough ride. Now, I know that media bashing is kind of de rigueur these days. Everybody likes to kind of take their shots at the media. I mean, I find it a bit rich. I got to tell you the truth. I mean, I'm biased and all, but I do find it rich, and I'll tell you why. Everyone wants their news for free, right? But there's a lot of resources that go into making great journalism, and free is not covering it, okay? So, wanting great journalism without paying any mind to what goes into it is exactly like wanting a great auto industry made in America, as Joe Biden says, without investing in any new mines in the country. It's the exact same thing, which is fine, that's fine, but then we all have to live with wonky journalism and cars that look like this, right? Imagine a fleet of those on the QEW in rush hour. I don't think, the fuel efficiency on the wooden car is not really where we want to be. All right, listen, like I say, the markets are tough, and whenever the markets are tough, it always feels like it's bad in a peculiar way this time, and it's going to keep going on, but it won't, right? I'm a bit of a nerd. I like going back. I have access to the Northern Miner archives. I go back over 100 years. I like going through them, and when you do that, it gives you some perspective. It's sobering. You do see these cycles that just repeat and repeat and repeat. And the other thing that I learned in doing that is there's nothing better for this industry than a good old war. It sounds terrible. I know I'm not condoning it, but Some of these headlines from over 100 years ago, I thought you might get a kick out of. Feels like you're in a time machine when you kind of go back and look at some of these. These are from over 100 years ago. Oh my, too much, Elon, too much. He's gone too far. I think we can all agree that with all due respects to Cameco, let's keep uranium out of any future conflicts, right? Now, listen, even though these things repeat and these cycles go over and over again, it doesn't take the sting out of it if the metal you're producing, if the price of the metal you're producing goes down by 20%, right? That hurts, that stings. What will take the sting out of it is if you call up the LME and you get them to cancel all the transactions at the price that you don't like. Who knew that was an option until this year? Who ever knew? Like, hello, LME, I don't like the price of nickel today. Can't you just cancel it? Well, oh, okay. Like, this is what happened. This is what happened. And not exactly. We all know what was really behind that situation, but not good, not good. On the brighter side of things, one of the leading lights in our industry, Pierre Lassonde, made headlines earlier this year. He made one of the largest, well, not one of the largest, he made the largest donation to an art project in Toronto history. 25 million for the Lassonde Art Path. This is going to be down at the harbor front. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. Another example of our industry giving back to the community. Absolutely. Absolutely. When it's completed, you'll be able to walk along the water, cool lake breeze in your hair, looking at great works of art, all of which are going to revolve around a common theme. Pierre sends his regards. He wishes he could be here tonight. He's on vacation with his family. He'll be at the next one for sure. All right, listen, let's jump into it. We have such an incredible slate of individuals that we're all here to honor tonight. We have Dale Corman, a 50-year career in the mining industry, 50 years of consistent success. Dale, you're like a combination of Hall of Famer Cal Ripken Jr. and the amazing Kreskin, for your ability to see into the future for a lot of these projects that other people couldn't see the value in, and consistently turning them into real mines and world beaters, really. Penasquito, of course, being one of the most famous of them all. So, Dale, absolutely. Maureen Jensen. I mean, Maureen, you not only broke through glass ceilings, you smashed through glass ceilings. And you did it back when they were like thick plexiglass, right? These weren't things. Maureen was the first female to head up the OSC. She also ran, yeah, sure, yeah. The more the better. She also ran her own junior mining company before that. Clearly she figured out that doing the regulating is a lot more fun than getting regulated, which I think is a very smart, shrewd move on your part, Maureen. Maureen also was recently quoted as saying that getting into the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame is a lot like winning an Oscar. Maureen, it's even better. There's no slapping allowed here. At least that's what they tell me, because if anyone's getting it, it's me, and I have very sensitive skin. So let's hope that everything's all right on that front. Phillip Mackey. Phillip Mackey is going into the hall this year. Phillip is one of Canada's finest imports from Australia. His contribution to metallurgy are just renowned, right? In terms of research and development and technological advancement. In Phillip's career, his name was synonymous with copper, the red metal. Of course, Phillip, I'd love to see what you think now about the fact that they're calling it the green metal, and they're not even talking about oxidization. It's, again, these are wild, wild times that we're living in. Peter Risby. This is a wonderful story that you're all going to be treated to tonight on the video. Tara, your father, you recognize, he was already in the Yukoners Prospectors Hall of Fame, and he was named Mr. Miner back in the 90s. But Tara felt that his incredible life deserved even bigger recognition and spearheaded his nomination package to the board, of which I'm a member of the board. And we're all so glad that that happened, because this is truly an incredible, incredible story. Of all the entrepreneurs in the industry I've read about, your late father was the toughest one, and that's saying something in this industry. But the amount of adversity that he put up with is absolutely inspiring. And then, of course, Bob Quartermain. Last but certainly not least, what a sterling career. From tech to silver standard to Pretium, and at the same time being a champion for bringing Aboriginal involvement into our industry on education, on social justice, on habitat preservation. Just a leader on all those critical fronts, Bob. And somewhere along the line, with all that going on, he still managed to master the very opaque art of negotiating with Australians. That was quite the deal that you struck with Newcrest, Bob. Quite the deal indeed. Maybe you should have called the company Premium instead of Pretium. All right, we have wonderful videos that are going to give all of us a really full picture of the lives of the newest members of the Mining Hall of Fame. So let's get into the real meat of the evening. I'd like to invite the chair of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame and the president and the CEO of the Mining Association of Canada, Pierre Breton, back to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Since 1989, the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame has recognized 195 exemplary leaders who have made a significant and lasting contribution to our industry. Tonight, we reach a new milestone with our 200th member. I'd like to give a special warm welcome to the Hall of Famers who are here with us tonight. Ross Beattie, who is also a supporting partner of the Hall of Fame. Thank you, Ross. Here somewhere. Pat Dillon, inducted last year. Ed Thompson, inducted in 2018. Dr. Norman Keevil, inducted in 2004. And Mac Watson, inducted in 2015. These now 200 individuals have set new standards for excellence, supported Canada in becoming a global leader in mining, and inspired pride in our collective contributions to Canadian society, contributions that continue today. The mining industry plays a critical role in driving the Canadian economy forward, and never has what we do been more of a priority. Just this past April, the Canadian government, the current Canadian Liberal government, announced a $3.8 billion critical minerals strategy that will benefit and engage almost every province and territory in Canada. Public support for our industry has also never been stronger. Certainly, there is more work to do, most especially as we continue to foster welcoming and diverse places of work and strive to reach even higher standards of environmental, social, and governance behavior. But tonight, we can be proud that our global leadership, dedication to responsible mining, and our role in the promise of a cleaner, greener future is recognized more than ever before. Sadly, this year, we lost 5 friends and proud members of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. Jim O'Rourke passed away in October 2021. Bert Wassman passed away in January 2022. In May 2022, we said goodbye to Mike Nucky and Graham Farquharson. And earlier this month, on August 7th, Ned Goodman passed away. Inducted in 2013, Jim O'Rourke played a key role as a mine maker and advocate of progressive industry partnerships, building some of British Columbia's most established mining operations. Jim sat on my board when I was the CEO of the Mining Association of BC, during which time he reopened the Copper Mountain Mine with the dogged determination he was known for. Jim was also an avid fisherman and stole the prize for biggest fish from me with 10 minutes to go in the competition in a fundraiser for the BC Children's Hospital. And he did this by using Japanese mysticism to decide the depth of the line. And I'm not kidding, that's how he did it. Despite this, I remember Jim fondly. In 2011, we inducted Bert Wassman, world-renowned leader in metallurgical plant engineering and design for more than 40 years. as well as a driving force in the growth and success of Hatch. He is credited with breakthrough contributions to metallurgical operations in Canada and abroad that improve productivity, cost, and energy efficiencies, capability to extract valuable products from lower grade ores, and environmental performance. Back in 2004, when we inducted Mike Nucky, we recognized his leadership role in the discovery and development of at least 10 mineral deposits, including the Raglan mine in northern Quebec, where he unlocked new economic opportunities for nearby communities. Nucky was an inspiring mentor to many prospectors who continue to make an impact on our industry today. And Nucky was nearing retirement when I entered this industry, but I do remember being told that he was one of the living legends of our sector, and that was some 20 years ago. As a senior statesman of Canada's mining industry, Graham Farquharson dedicated his life to our industry and in service of it throughout his career with Strathcona Mineral Services. Graham was inducted into the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame in 2010 and was director of the board for 8 years. Serving with Graham on the board, I often took my cue from him when considering Hall of Fame nominations, as his insights, experience, and moral fiber were things to follow. The Northern miner said it best when, in his memory, they dubbed him the straight shooter who busted Bre-X and changed the industry. Lastly, inducted in 2012, Ned Goodman made transformative and enduring contributions to Canada's industry and capital markets as a company builder, merchant banker, and investment advisor during a dynamic career spanning almost half a century. We honor their lives today, the lives of Jim O'Rourke, Burke Wasmond, Mike Nucky, Graham Farquharson, and Ned Goodman, and are grateful for their exemplary service to our industry. Tonight, we celebrate our 5 new members to the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame: Dale Corman, Maureen Jensen, Phillip Mackey, Robert Quartermain, and Peter Risby. These 5 inductees reflect the very best of company building determination, capital markets excellence, research, development, and technology development, and on-the-ground relationship building. These outstanding leaders offer timeless inspiration for future generations in mining as their stories become immortalized in the Hall of Fame. A special thank you to each and every one of you for joining us this evening to recognize these 5 remarkable individuals. To capture, preserve, and share their stories, we are incredibly grateful to our sponsors, most especially in this time of great economic uncertainty.
The Canadian Mining Hall of Fame would like to thank and acknowledge our sustaining sponsors. It is through their generous support we maintain our enduring presence within the Canadian mining industry. Thank you to our legacy sponsor, Hecla Mining Company. Hecla is a precious metals mining company with operations in Canada and the United States. Hecla is the largest silver producer in the U.S. and has been delivering long-term value for shareholders and building a net positive legacy for all.
Hecla invests in our people and our communities, and that's a priority for us.
The communities don't just view the mines as this outside organization. They actually, to a degree, take ownership of these mines, and they want the mines successful.
I mean, you've got the managers who live in the area, lots of miners, just solid people who volunteer for a lot of different things.
We would like to thank our visionary sponsors. Agnico Eagle Mines. Agnico Eagle is a senior Canadian gold miner that has been producing precious metals since 1957. Recognized globally for its leading environmental, social, and governance practices, Agnico is a partner of choice within the mining industry. Thank you to Agnico Eagle for hosting tonight's cocktail reception.
At Agnico Eagle, we've been making mining work for over 60 years. We treat people and communities with respect. We improve safety and environmental performance through innovation. We keep our word and deliver on our commitments. That's how we make mining work.
We would like to thank our visionary sponsors. Hatch. Hatch partners with their clients to tackle their toughest challenges in the metals, energy, and infrastructure sectors. Celebrating over 65 years of exceptional customer service, Thank you to Hatch for tonight's dinner wine.
All right, I don't know about all of you, but I'm cooking. I'm sorry I had to lose the blazer. In a way, though, I just hit me that it's kind of fitting. I was speaking to Pat Dillon earlier and Deb McComb. Both of their parents used to, this place is, for those out of town, this is an institution in Toronto. Big bands used to play here. This has the best dance floor anywhere in Ontario. It's a spring-loaded thing. So I was thinking back in the 30s, all those people were dancing. There was no air conditioning at all. So they were hot. We have air conditioning and we're this hot. So in a way, it's fitting. All right, so please put up with the lack of formality, but I am sweating. Okay, let's get into it now. This is the exciting part of the evening. We're gonna induct properly all of the newest members of the Mining Hall of Fame. We're starting with Dale Corman. Please sit back and enjoy this excellent video on Dale's career.
Few people in the mining industry have had a hand in as many successful mining projects as Dale Corman. His expertise in geology, law, and mining were the perfect combination to set him on a career path that would leave a lasting legacy in the industry.
Like a true entrepreneur, Dale has often been successful where others have failed or feared to go. Dale has expertly bridged the mining, financial, local, Indigenous, and governmental communities and helped to create many thousands of lasting jobs and benefits for local and national economies.
Dale grew up on the Niagara Peninsula and was destined to become part of the family orchard business, but he set his sights further afield.
I decided that I wasn't going to be a farmer, and I worked for a company called Aiken and McLaughlin in St. Catharines. They're a construction company, and they were actually building the Skyway in Burlington at that time.
A connection at that company recommended he attend Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York, where he received a bachelor's degree in geology.
And at that time, the student to professor ratio was 1 professor for every 10 students. And so you got a lot of attention, whether you wanted it or not, and sort of kept me focused on the books rather than other things that drew my interest.
After a summer working for the Geological Survey of Canada in BC, Dale spent a year at Osgoode Law School.
I learned enough law just to be dangerous, and then it certainly helped me through my career, knowing what the law was all about.
During that same year, while working in the bush, Dale was asked if the life of a geologist was for him.
And I thought for a second, I thought about the black flies, and I said, no, not really. And he, through his connections, got me in to see a couple of brokerage firms, and that's where I really got to know the mining industry from the sort of the banking perspective.
4 years with Burns Brothers and Denton as a mining analyst started Dale's 50-year career of discovery and company building.
He's got a very keen eye for mineral deposits, first and foremost. He understands what type of deposits work in any type of cycle. And his timing is impeccable, and he is able to identify when a project should be advanced, when a project should be sold, and when a project should just sit.
Dale's kind of a funny guy, and he has a great sense of humor. He likes telling jokes, but he can flip really quickly and get serious. And when he gets serious, you want to pay attention to what he's talking about, because again, he has this passion and he has this vision for projects long before other people can see it.
From the mid-60s to 2021, Dale held positions of president, vice president, CEO, or chairman of 10 companies and was director of 25 listed companies. During his career, Dale was involved in 7 mines and mineral deposits, the first 2 being the Sturgeon Lake Mine and the Durham Antimony Mine that was long thought to be out of ore.
There's an old chap standing around, and I asked him why the mine closed, and he told me that was the longest haul that the horses could draw the cart up the slope.
Dale realized the mine wasn't out of ore. It closed because it was too difficult for the horses to haul ore from the mine.
We found it in 1969, and by 1972 we had it back in production. And nowadays that would be impossible. And so it operated for 10, 15, 20 years, something of that order.
Dale also made major discoveries in Mexico with the San Nicolas and Penasquito deposits.
It turned out to be the largest gold mine in Mexico, second largest silver mine. It was taken over or sold to Glamis, and then currently it is being operated by Newmont. And it's still one of their best assets in that corporation.
Dale's deliberate strategy of thinking big and focusing on larger deposits paid off.
It doesn't make a lot of sense focusing on small deposits because they're just as hard to bring a little one in as a big one. And so I've always tried to focus on something that had good economics.
Raising money was a big part of Dale's work, and he gained a reputation as a person with high standards and ethics.
Well, Dale is a great leader and really was my mentor as a geologist initially. His integrity and his honesty showed in every aspect of what he does in this business.
I've known Dale for the better part of 2 decades now, and Dale has always been an extremely principled and trustworthy individual.
And so it's really, it comes down to people really, and the people that you've associated with in your early stages of your career, and the ones that you kept during the latter part of your career. And it all comes down to being honest and truthful, and having the confidence of the people that you raise money from, that you're going to spend it wisely and hopefully make it a success and make money for myself and them as well.
Like many of his peers in the industry, Dale likes to give back, having donated over $4 million to philanthropic interests, including his alma mater, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. On his retirement, a scholarship fund was also set up by Western Copper and Gold. Dale didn't retire until his mid-80s, and although he likes to spend time on hobbies like fishing, he's still involved in the industry.
He currently is the founder and chairman of North Isle Copper, who are developing a large copper gold system on Vancouver Island. And also just recently, he's retired from Western Copper and Gold, and he has been able, with his company and his associates, to build one of Canada's largest open pit potential mines, a copper and gold deposit, one of the largest that remains undeveloped in Canada.
Thoroughly enjoyed my 50 years in the mining business, and it's amazing how time flies when you're having fun. I made a lot of friends in the business, and I enjoyed every day that I was there.
Dale, come on up. I said, my dog Sibby, who couldn't be here tonight, she sends her regrets. She was the star of the movie. Thank you, Anthony and Pierre, for the introduction and presentation gift, which I'll forever cherish. I am deeply honored and grateful to have been selected by the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame as one of the 5 recipients to be inducted in 2022. I would also like to congratulate the other
inductees on their remarkable achievements. I've been blessed with good health and fortune, and my success over the last 50 years wouldn't have been possible without the help of a number of talented friends and associates that I've met and worked with during my career. To these people, I say thank you. A special thanks also to Charlie Page and his wife Lynn, who I've known in excess of 40 years and who are seated at my table, for the work and effort that went into the preparation of my application. I would also like to thank the 11 people, many of whom are present here this evening, for taking the time to write letters of recommendation to support my application. Bob Quartermain, who is also being honored this evening, is one of those people. I want to thank the Mining Association of Canada for sponsoring my application and the corporate sponsors who have made this evening possible. Lastly, I would like to thank my lovely wife, Caroline, who has been my lifelong companion for the last 58 years, who is also seated at my table. I want to especially thank her for her help and encouragement to realize my dream. A little over a year ago, I retired from Western Copper and Gold. In that time, the company made a generous $150,000 donation to a scholarship that was set up in my name and casino mining to help provide financial support to Yukon students who are pursuing degrees in engineering and science. It is my hope that Scholarship Fund will continue to grow over the next few years as the casino is being developed and the individuals and companies that have benefited from the work to date, as I have, will consider donating to this worthy cause. There are a lot of very bright young adults in Yukon who shouldn't be deprived of a good education due to financial issues. One of the questions that was most frequently asked is, what are you going to do when you retire? Besides checking off a few remaining things on my bucket list, I plan to continue to support the mining industry, which has been so good to me and my family. Over the years, I have traveled to many different countries. One thing that I've always noted is that those places that support mining generally thrive and prosper. Individuals who work in the mining industry are good, hard-working people, and the contributions to the economy and society goes well beyond the monetary benefits that they receive. On a lighter note, I've also been frequently asked what is the secret of a long and successful marriage? To this question, I draw on the wisdom of a long and cherished friend of mine who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, Bob Pretty. Bob was also a great supporter in the mining industry and was friends with a number of people present this evening. Bob gave me the friendly advice, whatever you do, don't argue with your wife and pay attention to what she says, even if you don't always agree with her. Always respond, "You're absolutely right, dear." Again, thanks. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance, and making this a very special and memorable evening for me and my family. Thank you.
Thank you to our champion sponsors, Dakota Gold Corporation. Dakota Gold is a South Dakota-based, responsible gold exploration and development company with a specific focus on revitalizing the Homestake District in Lead, South Dakota. Franco-Nevada Corporation. Franco-Nevada is a Canadian gold-focused royalty and streaming company that manages the largest and most diversified portfolio of cash flow producing royalty and stream assets across the Americas, Australia, Africa, and Europe. Magris Performance Materials. Magris is a leading North American-based niobium and talc materials company. Teck. Teck is one of Canada's leading mining companies, focused on providing products that are essential to building a better quality of life for people around the globe. And Yamana Gold Corporation. Yamana Gold is a Canadian-based precious metals producer, mining profitably and responsibly across operations throughout the Americas.
Thank you to all of our champion sponsors. Well, we go from the incredible career of Dale Corman, those 50 years of Mark's success, now to the breakthrough career of Maureen Jensen. Please sit back and enjoy this video.
Not many people have reached the levels of power and influence that Maureen Jensen has achieved in the mining, regulatory, and financial industries. She has done it with grace and conviction, paving the way for other women to follow in her footsteps.
I have chosen to get involved in areas where I thought there was a problem that could only be solved by putting smart people together, dissecting the problem, and fixing it piece by piece. But through my whole life, I've tried to pick causes or issues that I think would make business better.
Maureen has been a trailblazer in the industry, not only going into what was back in the 70s a male-dominated industry, but having become a CEO of an exploration publicly listed company, and then becoming a trailblazer on the regulatory side of the business.
Born in Winnipeg, Maureen grew up in mining towns as they moved with her father's jobs. Her mother's dream was for Maureen to become a doctor. She was in pre-med when she discovered geology.
I took an elective, geology, and by Christmas time I was hooked. I was going to be a geologist, and my mother cried for 4 years.
Maureen graduated from the University of Toronto with a Bachelor's of Science degree in geology.
I started working in field camps, exploration geology. I really wanted to be out in the bush, and I wanted to find a mine. I didn't find a mine, but I found a wonderful location.
From 1979 to 1998, Maureen continued in mining, working in Canada and South Africa, becoming CEO of Noble Peak Resources. Following that, Maureen was asked to join the TSX, which started her on a new path, leading change on a number of fronts. The first was her contribution to merging markets.
The TSX was merging markets and took over the Vancouver Stock Exchange and the Alberta Stock Exchange and put them into the venture. And so I was part of that whole changeover and moving all of those exchanges over to one trading engine.
At the TSX, Maureen was also a key player on the Mining Standards Task Force, developing new disclosure standards that changed the way mining companies reported resources.
When the task force finished their work, there were 66 recommendations that were made in that report. Out of the 66 recommendations, I got 64 implemented. And one of them was a new securities law for disclosure for mining companies. And that's 43101.
And I think what Maureen brought to the table was not only her experience as being a CEO of a mining exploration company that was publicly listed, but also she understood what was needed from a regulatory perspective.
Maureen was very instrumental in another stage of that because she helped with the Association of Professional Geoscientists of Ontario, and they came up with legislation, which I helped with as well. Legislation to make the APGO a self-regulatory organization in order for geologists within Ontario to be qualified persons for the purposes of doing the technical reports.
With Bill Pearson and the whole team, we formed APGO and lobbied and got a new Geoscientists Act. And now we have licensed over 2,000 or 3,000 licensed geoscientists in Ontario.
From the TSX, Maureen continued her change-making journey when she became president and CEO of Market Regulation Services, which later became IROC.
I started looking at regulation from a bigger picture. So not just the market surveillance and disclosure side, but then also enforcement and looking at all of the trading rules and also doing the examination of trading desks
With Maureen at the helm, IROC created the first cross-market surveillance platform. In 2011, she became Executive Director and Chief Administrative Officer of the Ontario Securities Commission. In 2016, she became the first female chair and CEO of the OSC.
I'm proud of the team that I put together there. It's incredible that they could look at crypto regulation, cannabis regulation, changing the rules, having new advisor standards, all within 4 years.
Maureen also changed the face of boards across the country by implementing diversity policies for inclusion of women on boards.
When you started looking around corporate Canada, we realized that here we had companies that were retail companies that were serving women and babies, for example. That was their key business. There was not a single woman on the board. I don't believe we should have women on boards just because they're women. They need to be smart, educated, experienced directors who happen to be women.
She wears her passion for the industry on her sleeve as a director, but she's not only focused on the company, but what's important for society. Whenever we have a conversation on ESG, diversity, inclusion, she leads that conversation.
Maureen has contributed to many industry organizations over the years and been the recipient of many awards, including being named to many prestigious lists that recognize influential people. In 2019, she received an honorary law degree from the University of Windsor. Making changes in any industry isn't easy, but Maureen has been steadfast in her commitment to change.
She stood her ground. She didn't blink. She wasn't aggressive and argumentative. She was just thoughtful, strong, and courageous. And she did it. She achieved it.
What you have to do is identify the downside of what you have today. And then you have to break it down into pieces and show how it could be better. And then you have to show how the outcomes are going to be better, because it's all about outcomes.
Retired from the OSC, Maureen continues her work in support of women in business with the Prosperity Project, still has a hand in the financial industry, and is still connected to her first love, the mining industry, as a board member of Franco-Nevada.
The mining industry has a hidden secret. And that hidden secret is the best people in the world. They just are authentic, direct, impassioned, love what they do. But I've seen that everywhere I've gone, whether you're in management or whether you're working right in the bush. It's all about people.
Maureen, please come up and accept your award.
Good evening, everyone. Are you as hot as I am right now? Yeah. So I have attended this event for years and years, and I've watched legends of the industry come up to this podium and cheered and thought how wonderful to be able to do this. And just last year, one of my closest friends, Pat Dillon, she was inducted into the Mining Hall of Fame. And here I am. I still can't believe it. Thank you for being here. I feel honored, thrilled, and quite humbled to be in this Mining Hall of Fame. I want to thank the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame Board and their member organizations, the CIM, MAC, PDAC, and of course the Northern Miner, for their recognition. And I want to thank those who supported my nomination and who did the arduous work on the application. It's also an absolute pleasure to be part of tonight's cohort of amazing people, especially one of whom, Bob Quartermain, who's been a friend for years. I'm thrilled to be here. So as you saw on the video, my mother certainly was not a fan of me being a geologist. I grew up in mining towns. My dad was a mining engineer. And that's where I lived, that's where I grew up. She wanted me to have opera and restaurants. And when I told her, she was very unhappy. But I found my perfect place. I found my perfect life, a combination of science, adventure, and business, which that triad is amazing, and I loved it. I also met the perfect mining man, my husband, Torben, and we shared a life and we never looked back. We lived at mine sites, we lived in bush camps, we worked underground, we worked on surface exploration, we traveled the world, we moved to the city, and we continued to learn from some of the most amazing mentors who not only shared their knowledge, but were encouraging. I volunteered with the PDAC and CIM for years, and many, many other organizations associated with mining. And I definitely felt part of a community, and it's a community that I still love. But as you are all aware, mining is cyclical. And after that wonderful Bre-X failure, when the trust was gone, it was very difficult for everyone in this business. I left the industry to work at the Toronto Stock Exchange, which you saw, and my job was to try and get the trust back between investors and the mining companies. And it took time, but it eventually led me in a totally different direction. But as the world changed, so did the financial industry, and it gave me the opportunity to work on so many delicious problems that needed people to solve. And so these incredible changes included the full automation of the markets, competition of new markets, consumer protection, which I'm still working on, digital access to services, and finally, most recently, the growing appreciation that a focus on people and diversity and inclusive cultures make businesses much more successful in the long term. And that's something that we're all experiencing. So tonight I would just like to say one thing, and that's to talk about diversity. We all know that mining has lost a great number of people to other businesses, not just due to the market turndowns, but also not fitting into the mining culture. Women, I'm a prime example, diverse people, and anyone who's different or comes from a different background continue to be noticeably absent from the mining business. So today we are in a war for talent, and it's truly a war. And a mining company culture needs to change to include a very people-focused leadership, investments in training, active mentorship and sponsorship, and full respect at work policies if we are to attract the brightest and the best. Because we're all being automated today, so we have to attract them. So while this is necessary, I also believe it is absolutely possible because of the amazing and talented people in this room and in this business. And the continued success of this business is absolutely critical, not only for Canada, but globally. There are so many people that I want to thank, but I'm going to keep it short. Thanks to everyone who shared their skills and wisdom with me in the early days. But I just want to say thank you to some particular people. One, Ula Knowles, my first field boss, tough as nails, wonderful. I learned so many things. Victor Popovic, this is my first mine geologist boss, fantastic guy. And I learned every single day at the face with him. The Noble Peak Board and staff, Felix Lee is here today. He was part of that staff, and so many more people. I also want to thank Rosemary Chan, a friend of mine who's here today, and a wonderful colleague who taught me how to negotiate, and not just for things in the business and for other people, but for me. And I didn't know that until she taught me. A big thank you to my posse of mining women who have shared experiences and supported each other over the years. And today, Linda Bloom, Andrea Waldy, and Neen Ullman are here, and I want to thank them so much for your friendship. Pat Dillon and Deb McComb are both here. They've been my long-term, almost lifelong friends, confidants, all three of us geologists, married to mining engineers, each raising 2 children, traveling extensively, working all the time, and still finding time for fun. Thank you both for your friendship and for being so inspiring. And I want to thank my 2 sons, Eric and David, who have always loved and been proud of me. I'm going to tell you just a little story. One of David's teachers asked him if he was going to be a geologist and go into mining, and he said, "No way, that's woman's work." And it is. And also tonight, they're here with their partners, Vadim and Amanda. And I want to thank you all for coming to celebrate with us. And finally, I want to publicly thank you, Torben, my life partner. You always supported and believed in me. And you are the best man that I know, and I love you. So, just to close, I want to say that over the years, I've never lost my passion for the mining industry. I grew up in this business, and today I'm very proud to sit on the Franco-Nevada board. And once again, I'm privileged to think about mining and exploration issues. I've come full circle, and I love it. Thank you all for joining me and for me receiving this wonderful honor. Thank you for being here.
The Canadian Mining Hall of Fame would like to thank this year's gold sponsors: Barrick Gold Corporation, Haywood Securities, and Peartree Securities.
Congratulations to Maureen. And now we'll move on to a video that honors the fine work and life of Phillip Mackey.
It takes a talent, expertise, perseverance, and an innovative spirit to invent a technology that changes a global industry. Phillip Mackey has done it not once, but twice.
I think Phillip is highly creative. He thrives on building and innovation. He's got curiosity. Phillip has got a capacity to transform whatever he touches. Very few Canadians who have commercialized not 1 but 2 processes that have transformed how copper is produced worldwide.
Phil is an innovator, and this is best exemplified as one of the patent holders for the Noranda process and the Noranda converter. The Noranda process was the first continuous process for smelting and converting copper from concentrates, and this uniquely Canadian invention remains today one of the main technologies used by the copper industry around the world.
It takes more than the knowledge of mathematics, chemistry, and physics to create an invention. Phillip is the first to say it's teamwork that leads to success.
I was part of an outstanding team, and I don't think you could want anything better. Doing something you like, surrounded by a team of people that were equally supportive, and a management that definitely supported us.
Born in a suburb of Sydney, Australia, Phillip showed signs early on that he was destined for great things. An outstanding student, he was the top of his class at school. Encouraged to study metallurgy by his father and inspired by professors, Phillip graduated with a PhD from the University of New South Wales.
For my PhD thesis, I was working on a substantial pilot plant on lead-zinc metallurgy as part of a new process that Dr. Warner was developing. This was my first introduction, can I say, to innovative process metallurgy, and then I found my niche. In those days, before computers, a lot of our work was done on what's called a slide rule, and as part of my degree, the university had one of the first IBM computers, and it was probably about the size of an average garage. That was my first introduction to computers.
Word of Phillip's work reached Noranda, and he was asked to join their team at the Research Center in Montreal. From there, he was transferred to Rouen, Noranda.
I arrived at Noranda at a very exciting time. The winter of 1969, the copper industry had several problems: high fossil fuel usage, environmental controls were rather poor, and Noranda was leading the way to radically change the industry and the technology. I was pilot plant supervisor, running the first of the new copper smelting processes. I later worked on other aspects of the process, actually including groundbreaking work Noranda did on behavior of metals like gold and silver, various other minor metals.
His reputation was that of an incredibly innovative leader. People respected him. Not easy to do the kind of technical work that he did, to commercialize a process, to go through the entire challenges of building a process that is now used worldwide. And I think he likes a challenge that is significant, that has high risk. So he has a penchant for risk taking. He goes for the big projects that have maybe high failure, and his inner tenacity to stick with it and to make things happen, I think, is what stands out for me with Phillip.
Phillip is a walking repository of knowledge on metallurgy. He is a prolific producer of technical papers, having published over 100.
There's a lot in the public domain, but there's a lot that's not in the public domain. I could show you hundreds of reports here that we have in the database from him. So those are all, company know-how and things like that. So we've contributed a lot to the industry.
Phillip has received many awards for his work and holds the patent for the Noranda converter. He also spent many volunteer hours with the Canadian Institute of Mining, Metallurgy and Petroleum as president of its Metallurgical Society from 1983 to 1985.
Management believed that through collaboration and exchange, that we could learn as much as we provide. And this certainly turned out to be the case.
Phillip was also key in establishing the World Copper Conference, which began in Chile in 1987. The Phillip Mackey Symposium was held in his honor at the 2019 Copper Conference in Vancouver.
I hope that it's improved the technology through the spread of knowledge, because I think the spread of knowledge is important.
Phillip is also known as a great mentor. He spent a year as a professor of metallurgy at Laurentian University, inspiring students who went on to reach impressive heights in the industry.
I mean, he's been a very good coach. He has trained many engineers, so he's made a tremendous contribution there.
During his career, Phillip has visited over 80 countries and more than 100 metallurgical operations. He has no thoughts of retiring and is still actively contributing to the industry. He attributes his continued interest in the field, in part, to the enthusiasm of students. He was recently awarded the John Elliott Lecture Series. His first lecture was in Toronto.
It created a lot of interest and enthusiasm, and I find that, very challenging and inspiring. So why wouldn't we keep doing that?
Phil is one of the finest metallurgical engineers of his generation in Canada. His professional achievements are second to none. He stands out as a wonderful ambassador for the Canadian mining and metallurgical industry.
In 2010, after retiring from Xstrata, Phillip and his wife Angèle formed PJ Mackey Technology Inc., at which they both still work today.
Soon after I left Xstrata, and I started working with a junior mining company called Horizonte Minerals, developing a nickel project in Brazil. The nickel plant will be built this year. It'll be one of the few new nickel plants. So it's been a very exciting development and working with some very, very capable people.
Phillip, please come on up.
Well, thank you, Pierre and Anthony. And Anthony, last week, I looked into the archives of Northern Miner, the issue of 1960. We were making lithium carbonate in Quebec. It's all in the archives. So good evening, everyone, distinguished guests, members of the Canadian Hall of Fame, executives at CIM, PDAC, the Northern Miner, and other industry groups, all guests, ladies and gentlemen. Well, as I said, thank you, Anthony and Pierre, for your kind words of introduction, and thank you for the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame for this honor. It is with deep humility and great pleasure that I accept this prestigious award. My congratulations also go to the other outstanding inductees. I'm actually privileged to be and honored to be part of your group. I would like to share this honor with my wife, Angèle, who we saw in the video. Angèle is over there. Recognizing her love and unconditional support throughout our wonderful years together. Thank you very much, Angèle, for your strength and loving help. My sincere gratitude to all colleagues and all those in the Canadian mining and metallurgical industry who have supported my nomination to the Canadian Hall of Fame tonight. Many thanks to you all. Merci. I would also like to extend my gratitude to many talented colleagues and friends, some of whom are present tonight, and also to thank those who could not attend. I'd also like to thank Glencore for sponsoring our table, and a word of thanks to Penda for the wonderful videos that we've seen tonight. I can say braving COVID, and can I say the perils of air travel today, my daughter Cynthia and my sister Angela over here traveled all the way from Sydney, Australia earlier this week So thank you, Cynthia, and thank you, Angela, for coming tonight to share this wonderful evening with Angela and I and all our colleagues in the mining industry. Going back in time a little bit, and we saw it in the video, I would like to acknowledge the role that my parents played in helping me choose metallurgy, first at university and then as a career. My father would say, the world needs metals. And I think he was right. I mean, even more so today with the energy transition. Also, you saw in the video, the world of mining has evolved tremendously since that cold January day in the late 1960s, when I arrived in Canada, straight from graduate studies in Australia, where I'd been operating a 10-ton-per-hour lead pilot plant. This caught the attention of Dr. Nicholas Themlis, who was visiting at the time, recruiting for Noranda. As a result, I began my career souping a second pilot plant, this time on copper, a new copper smelting process, as we heard, in Noranda that in fact was soon commercialized. I survived my first Canadian winter, a challenge in itself for a new Canadian, and I never looked back. The winters, well, they're still tough. Encouraged by Noranda to join the Canadian Institute of Mining and Metallurgy, I soon became very involved, reaping all the benefits of national and international contacts that were made. That led me to working on very interesting projects in Canada and around the globe in my career with Noranda, later Falconbridge, and then Xstrata. It's been my privilege to work with professional members of CIM for over 50 years and be part of the Canadian leadership, bringing technology to the world of minerals and metals industry. A word about the mining industry. We all know that climate change and the need for clean energy and clean air will force us to rethink our ways of doing things. The minerals and metals industry, absolutely crucial for the global energy transition. The Canadian mining industry can see increasing demand for all our products. This is good news for everyone here tonight. But it will require major changes in mining, milling, and materials technology for metals to play that vital role. Based on my experiences, I'm confident the CIM and other industry groups will thrive and meet these challenges in the years to come. We are certainly facing interesting and challenging times. I think the most challenging in my entire career. This great country, Canada, a resource-rich country, now has the opportunity to be a renewable energy superpower. With the skilled people such as here tonight, and Maureen mentioned the same group here tonight, and the entire mining industry in Canada, we can achieve this new heights in the world of metals. We have to, we will, we must. Once again, Anthony of Pierre, and all my colleagues, my daughter, my wife Angèle, and my colleagues on the Glencore tables, it gives me great pleasure to accept this honor tonight. Thank you all.
Thank you to our silver sponsors, BMO Capital Markets, CIBC Capital Markets, and Penda Productions, Inc.
Thank you, Phil. What a rousing speech. Spot on. You can tell that even though Phil has had a hard time adjusting to our Canadian winters, he's a Canadian now, he still is an Australian at heart, and you can see that because while I'm a sweaty, heaving mess up here, he's been as cool as a cucumber this entire evening. Not a bead of sweat. This is totally his temperature. He's right in his element here. Well done, Phil. Okay, we're going to move on now to Peter Risby. I alluded to this story in my opening remarks. Please sit back and pay attention to the incredible life of Peter Risby.
Peter Risby overcame incredible odds to find success as a prospector in the Yukon. His is a tale of hardship, strife, and close calls, all which he faced with tenacity and resilience. The odds were against him from birth. Born in Kansas in 1931 to a black railroad porter and a white nursing student, his family had to escape the Ku Klux Klan.
They fled to Canada and came up to northern Alberta, where they settled in a Cree community, an area called Sandy Lake. They were widely accepted as a mixed-race family in this Cree community. And so my dad grew up learning how to hunt and to fish and to navigate the bush.
As a child in that Cree community, at 7 years old, Peter was taken to residential school, but escaped.
It's quite a distance from where the residential school was in Desmarais, Alberta, to where the farm was in Sandy Lake, Alberta. And so he navigated the bush on his own, snuck out in the middle of the night. And as far as we understand, it took him a couple days to get back to his farm.
When the authorities came looking for him, the Cree community kept him hidden. He grew up working on the farm. At 16, he became a special constable for the RCMP as a Cree translator.
Because he had only been in the school for a very short period of time, he didn't have any formal education. So his grandmother and mother taught him how to read, and then the community taught him fluent Cree.
Known to his friends as Pete, his life became a series of close calls. The first at 18, when he joined the military and fought in the Korean War, where he survived an explosion.
He had shrapnel that was embedded into his legs, so he was found unconscious and sent to a military hospital in Japan. So he was there for about 6 months, and then he was discharged and then came back to Canada.
That's when Pete started his career in the mining industry as a prospector, one who was as much at home meeting investors as he was working in the bush. His work took him to South America, the US, and northern Canada. He started at the asbestos mine in Cassiar, British Columbia.
He was there for a few years, and he roomed with a geology student. And so this completely changed the course of his life, where he just became fascinated with prospecting and mineral identification.
Pete was a tenacious explorer. He loved getting out into the field. He was very personal with rocks. You know, it was his life. It's what drove him to be in nature and to find and discover things that, you know, other people didn't really see possible.
His close calls continued through his career, surviving a plane crash and a helicopter crash.
And so the pilot got a little bit too close to the mountainside, so clipped the mountainside. Dad jumped from the helicopter just, mere seconds before the rotor decapitated his seat.
When rescue crews found them, they were unconscious and thought to be mortally injured.
Another geologist was holding my dad's hand, and he felt him squeeze. And so he said, he's still alive. So they medevaced them, both him and the pilot, to Whitehorse.
It wasn't all dangerous adventures. Pete Risby was a successful prospector with a stellar reputation. He staked over 3,000 claims.
He went on to prospect through the Northwest Territories in an area called Godwin Lakes, and so discovered a copper, gold, lead, zinc, tungsten property with his Indigenous partner, prospecting partner, Art John. And so that property laid the foundation of Welcome North Mines. And so he went on to find about 80 different prospects that were later optioned to major companies.
He probably just got really good at it. He had another thing too, he moved a lot of properties and he had the personality to do it. He could come in and people could feel warm up to him almost right away. With a personality like that, to be approachable, it probably was a benefit when he was trying to option or sell his properties.
Pete became known for his unique approach to prospecting, which he was happy to pass on while mentoring others in the field.
One of the biggest lessons that Pete taught me as a young geologist was to always look for things that other people aren't looking at. And Pete, every single day, I remember in the field, he would spend every evening sitting down, looking at the rocks as the sun was setting, and almost kind of like talking to each and every single one. His heart was in everything he did.
Pete was ahead of his time in being committed to diversity, teaching and hiring Indigenous crews.
Pete was raised among the Alberta Cree. He wished that Yukon First Nations were integrated more in the development of mining in the territory, as well as the industry as a whole in Canada. Pete had great confidence in First Nations as natural prospectors, and he began teaching prospecting and mineral identification courses to Indigenous students. Some of his graduates were involved in major mineral finds.
I would watch him interact with them, teach them things, and as the season would progress, I would watch this group of people come back with new skills, and not just new skills, but just the enthusiasm.
He was the type of person that, he believed no matter your race, identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, he believed everybody deserved a chance and an opportunity.
In 1981, Pete started looking to do placer mining.
Really started making a name for himself. He also was the first to start exploiting placer gold in the Indian River area of the Yukon, and now that's a major placer river in the Yukon. He was one of the pioneers for that.
In 1996, Pete was named Placer Miner of the Year and inducted into the Yukon Prospectors Hall of Fame. When asked about Pete, people always mention his sense of humor and storytelling abilities. He was a lover of music and nature.
We had a camp pet, and it was an Arctic squirrel that we called Griff, and he really became very fond of Pete, and Pete became very fond of him.
I really did appreciate the way he operated, and he was kind and he was always personable and that sort of thing. And the tenacity was something else.
He was an individual. He kind of blazed his own way. He was the type of person that stood out in the crowd, and he knew what he wanted to do, and he went after it.
Even in his 70s, diagnosed with cancer, Pete was unstoppable.
He would go out on his own, with an ATV, and, he was so used to that life. It was just so ingrained in him that there was no stopping him.
He was very determined. He was somebody that was tenacious. He was someone that really never gave up his passion for finding new mineral showings and then staking them and then developing the properties.
Tara spent several months each year with her dad on his projects in the Yukon, a place she loves and a place that became Pete's final resting place.
It holds such a special place in my heart. The Yukon is my favorite place in the world, and we actually scattered his ashes near our old mining camp. So we wanted, Dad to be back near the Indian River. I really miss it. I have so many great memories up there.
Tara carries on her dad's legacy as director of his mining company, 7606 Yukon Limited.
Wow. When this, as Anthony intimated, when this came to the board, it was one of those nominations that kind of came a little bit out of nowhere, and it just blew everybody away. What an incredible life. So Tara, please come up and accept the award.
Thank you so much to Anthony and Pierre. My heartfelt congratulations to the fellow inductees. I'm humbled and honored to be here tonight accepting this award on my dad's behalf, amongst a group of highly accomplished and revered inductees. Dad would have loved being in this room with all of you. It's 10 p.m. on a hot, dry Yukon summer night. Pete Risby is coming in from a long day on the cat. As he's walking back from the cut, he sees a glimpse of something flash in his periphery. Off in the distance, he sees a creature, and he hopes it's not what he thinks it is. He gulps and takes a few steps closer. The creature comes further into focus. Memories flash before his eyes, and he recalls a time he came across a grizzly bear in the same spot. As he gets closer, he realizes he's about to come face to face with his greatest fear, the Thobates sylvaticus. In other words, a small, striped frog. From all of Pete's exploration adventures through South America with anacondas, scorpions in Mexico, cougars in Alberta, giant grizzly bears in the Pelly Mountains, plane crashes, broken bones, frostbite, the one thing that terrified Peter the most was frogs. It is remarkable how something so small, the size of your pinky finger, could have such a big impact. It goes to show that small things can have great impact. It is this notion that helps capture Pete's incredible life and career. Pete was the little guy, a man from humble beginnings with no formal education, an ordinary man who saw the value of small details. He recognized that small things can have great impact. Poring over maps to absorb every detail, trekking to a tiny outcrop of rock that someone else may have overlooked, reading every northern miner to learn about the latest mining updates. Small things can have great impact. Giving a hand up to someone in need in his community, providing transportation to Yukon youth to play hockey, going over every rock sample collected with his students at the end of a long day in the field. Gestures seemingly small, but small things can have great impact. The mining industry opened Pete up to the world. This small, biracial Black boy who was hidden in a chicken coop for the first years of his life traveled the globe doing what he absolutely loved. Pete lived and breathed the minerals industry, discovering precious, semi-precious, and base metals that are essential to our everyday existence was his lifeblood. Pete's methodologies were instrumental in creating guidelines for the Income Tax Act to placer miners, and he was negotiating mining agreements in the hospital up until the day he died. It was fellow CMHF inductee Al Coulan who said to Pete, "Always surround yourself with people who are smarter than you." While Pete likely threw out a quick-witted, "Well, that will be hard to find," the simple and inspired piece of advice had a massive impact on Pete and his career. Pete mentored with Indigenous prospector Arthur John, who held a tremendous wealth of knowledge and experience in the wilds of the North, which was invaluable to Pete's ability to push the boundaries of mineral exploration. He continued to learn from Yukon First Nations prospectors Esau Dick, George Johnny, and Robert Etzel, as well as geophysicist John S. Brock, and geologist Wayne Roberts, all of whom he would be thanking today. This incredible recognition would not have been possible without the contributions of a number of people. On behalf of the Risby family, I would like to give a heartfelt thanks to the CMHF Board of Directors, Mr. Phillip Bousquet and the Ontario Mining Association for sponsoring the nomination, Mr. Glenn Nolan for presenting the nomination. Letters of support from Yukon Minister of Energy, Mines and Resources, the Honourable John Stryker. Former Member of Parliament Yukon, the Honourable Larry Bagnall. Council of Yukon First Nations, Grand Chief Peter Johnston. Assembly of First Nations Yukon Region, Regional Chief Kluani Adamek. AMEBC Kendra Johnson. Samson Hartland, Brianne Warner, and the Yukon Chamber of Mines. Carl Scholes and the Yukon Prospectors Association. BDO Canada, Rick Hurdle, Jeff Johnson, and Kathy Hodgson. Leslie Stokes, Mike Power, Stuart Schmidt, Mike Milner, Donna Marie Cox, Barry Coulan, CMHF Deborah Breckles, Becky Bays, Paola Daydon, Adrian Sharp, and the Penda Productions team. The family that could be here today, Ruth Ann, Wayne, Kyle, Ashley, Norma, and Megan, and the family who couldn't be here today, Chris, Harold, Sam, Mimi, Pierce, Ellis, and of course, Peter's late son, John. It is my hope that if you take anything away from Dad's story today, it is not only perseverance in the face of obstacles, but that small gestures can have deep and long-lasting impact. We thank the CMHF for selecting Peter Risby as the first Black inductee into the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. We are excited to see the impact this wonderful gesture has on increasing diversity in the mining industry over the years to come. Something Pete believed in greatly and would be so proud of helping to create. Thank you very much.
Wow, Tara, you do your late father a great honor. That was a beautiful, beautiful speech. Last but certainly not least, we have Bob Quartermain. As Pierre mentioned earlier, our 200th member of the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. Please sit back and enjoy this video on Bob's career. Thank you.
Honesty and integrity, working hard, and the ability to build solid relationships were all the basis for Robert Quartermain's success.
This is a prospector, a highly successful prospector, successful mine builder, successful company builder, and great philanthropist, all rolled into one.
The abiding characteristic of Bob Quartermain is his generosity. He's generous as a friend, he's generous as a board member and as a company manager, and he's generous as a philanthropist.
Bob is just one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He's so giving, gracious with his time and his advice, always has a story to tell, and a real pleasure to include as one of my friends.
Born in St. Stephen, New Brunswick, and growing up in St. John, Bob started developing a strong character and his business acumen at a very young age.
When I was 12 years old, I started working summers in the family business, which sold Scottish woolens and tartans. Learned early on how to promote, but more importantly, had good, Christian conservative values that you grew up with.
His love of flying led him to become an air cadet, where he obtained his pilot's license and learned valuable skills like discipline, leadership, and teamwork.
When you're organizing a drill program for 30 or 40 people in a few drills with aircraft in Dubont Lake in the Northwest Territories, and you're doing it by spreadsheet and longhand, you need a lot of skill sets. And certainly what I learned during my time as an air cadet was certainly able to help me in my career.
Bob's connection with the military continues today as an honorary colonel with 19 Wing in Comox, BC. Like many in the industry, Bob started down a different path, computer science, but an elective in geology changed the course of his life.
By my third year, I changed my major from computer science and went full-time into geology. And I think what was transformational for me was at the end of my third year, I applied for a job with the Geological Survey of Canada. working 100 kilometers east of Baker Lake in a fly camp with 5 other people. And I spent the summer there. And when I arrived, it started the adventure that continues to this day. It's been great.
Bob graduated from the University of New Brunswick in 1977 with an honors bachelor's degree, and from Queen's University in 1981 with a master's in mineral exploration, then went to work at Teck as a project geologist.
They sent me up to the Lamac mine to be an underground mine geologist. After that, I was then sent to Hemlo and worked on the David Bell mine for 3 years from 1982 to 1985, drilling off that deposit.
During his time with Teck, Bob worked at several of their companies as president and CEO. In 1985, Teck moved Bob to British Columbia to run Silver Standard Resources.
At the time, it had one other employee, a market cap of about $1.8 million. I knew nothing about running public companies. I was a bush geologist. But Teck said they would support me, and so they allowed me to flourish at Silver Standard.
Now that company, today known as SSR Mining, is celebrating its 75th anniversary, and that's a milestone which very few mining companies achieve. And Bob's 25 years of management with his team set the platform for SSR Mining to become the $4 billion market cap company that it is today.
Bob has traveled extensively throughout his career.
I was working together with Bob on these different projects in Haiti, in Costa Rica, in Patagonia. Bob would always do the geology far more thoroughly than I ever did. And I respected that a lot. But he'd go down there for a week and he'd wander off through the Patagonian pampas, windy as hell, snowy often, cold, and he'd bang rocks for day after day after day until he got a feel for what really was there.
Bob planned to retire after 25 years at Silver Standard, but fate had other plans.
In the summer of 2010, while I was retired, Ken McNaughton showed me a piece of drill core from that. And I thought, I've never seen anything like that. And because of the amount of gold in it, figured there must be a mine here. So in the fall of 2010, I raised some money and went around, and we basically bought the Bruce Jack project back from Silver Standard and created Pretium.
The Bruce Jack mine began commercial production in July 2017, and in March 2022, the company was purchased by Newcrest for $3.4 billion Canadian dollars.
When Bob started Pretium, he very quickly put together a solid development team that was able to accelerate the project from a maiden resource in 2012 to a fully operational and profitable gold mine just 5 years later, and that's amazing. To achieve production in such a short period of time speaks to the technical expertise of the Pretium team and their strong engagement with all stakeholders.
It's been a huge success for every shareholder who's stuck with him. These are the reasons why he's got a great reputation. He works hard, does what he says he's going to do, and then gets lucky.
That's been the great thing about this industry, and certainly the most fulfilling for me as a geoscientist is taking a piece of drill core, taking a concept, and translating that into a really sound business.
Bob attributes his success to the lifelong relationships he's been able to establish in the industry.
One of the great things about the resource industry is that you meet people that you get to work with and collaborate throughout your careers.
Bob Quartermain is currently the co-chairman of Dakota Gold Corp, a responsible gold exploration and development company focused on revitalizing the Homestake District in Lead, South Dakota. Bob Quartermain is committed to giving back. One organization he's passionate about is the ARC Foundation, which educates students on diversity.
I'm a founding trustee of the ARC Foundation, which fosters inclusive education. And we do this by creating tools for educators so they can support students to live their most authentic lives.
As a gay man, Bob understands how important diversity is in the companies he has built.
We've created safe and respectful places for people to come to work because being part of a minority, I understand how important it is to feel equal and have a safe working environment.
Throughout his career, Bob Quartermain has been committed to several philanthropic causes, including his alma mater, the University of New Brunswick.
He's been a great philanthropist. He has several scholarships at the University of New Brunswick. He was a major fundraiser for that university. He's been a provider of scholarships at UBC. He's worked with the St. Paul's Hospital. He's raised funds for Mining Matters. He's done everything.
He's given back a tremendous amount to our industry. He's just a very generous person, and I admire that tremendously about him.
Bob, please come up.
Well, good evening, mesdames and messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family. Thank you, Pierre and Anthony. First, I wish to express my gratitude to the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame for this honor by including me with the men and women who have shaped our Canadian mining industry. And to all those who supported my nomination, thank you as well. Arriving on this platform tonight is a consequence of some good decisions on my part, and as Ross Beatty says, a little bit of luck, but more importantly, from the efforts and support of many thousands of individuals at the companies that I've been involved with. From employees and contractors to boards of directors, to our bankers and financiers, many of who are here tonight, lawyers, accountants, regulators, and our shareholders. Geology wasn't a planned vocation for me, but rather the one I evolved into, and for one for which I have a great deal of passion and has been of great reward. And it has taken me all over the world and throughout much of Canada. I am fortunate that many who have been instrumental in my career are here this evening, and I thank all of you collective for your presence, those who live here locally in Toronto, and those who've traveled across the continent tonight. To Ross Beatty, Don Lindsay, and Dr. Keevil, thank you for your very kind words in my video, and to Adrian and your team, thank you for characterizing my career so well. UNB has and is a large part of my life through my support for education, and I thank UNB President Dr. Paul Mazarol and his predecessor, Dr. Eddie Campbell, Dr. David Ganong, longtime family friend, fellow UNB and Canadian Mining Hall of inductee, Dr. Matt Watson, and all of the UNB family for being here tonight as well. It was Professor Arnie McAllister in my 4th year that instilled in me the passion for exploration and for geology. And it was alumni Dr. Bob Jones who gave me my first job that took me up to work near Baker Lake. Jay Hodgson and Brian McKenzie and my Minnett peers at Queen's broadened my understanding of the industry. And in 1981, I made one of those pivotal career decisions and I accepted a job with Teck Corporation. My very first day on the job, the very first person I met was my dear friend, Pat Dillon, a fellow inductee in the Mining Hall of Fame last year. I was mentored by Matthew Blecka and John May and sent to the Lamaque Gold Mine and Hemlo in quick succession. The experiences that I gained there would later inform my conviction there was high-grade gold at the Brucejack mine. Being in the Hemlo discovery ecosystem of Murray Pesum exactly 40 years ago this summer was exciting for a new geoscientist, and here we are, Barrick still operating it. In 1985, Dr. Keevil transferred me from North Bay to Vancouver to run Silver Standard. Norm and I had known at the back, and I will say it again, I am forever grateful to you and Teck for that opportunity. That year, Ross Beatty joined the board of Silver Standard, and we have had many silver ventures around the world, which we have now evolved into saving large cats in their habitat with Dr. Tom Kaplan at Panthera. Another pivotal moment in my career was 30 years ago. Rick Rule and I, with the support of Jim Blanchard and others, did our first of many financings, raising $2 million. When you look at the growth and spin-off of assets from Silver Standard and its associated companies, those funds have seeded close to $10 billion in market cap value now, a good return for our shareholders. The successes we enjoyed at Silver Standard and subsequently Pretium were due in large part
to my 25-year relationship with my business partners, Ken McNaughton and Joe Ovsnick. As a geoscientist, the Bruce Jack mine discovery and development into a long-life legacy asset in BC will be the highlight of my career. Taking a concept and turning it into a profitable operation in under 7 years, as Don Lindsay pointed out, is a testament to the exploration, development, operations team we assembled, and to our financiers, and to early and respectful engagement with First Nations, as evidenced by the more than 30% First Nations currently employed at the Bruce Jack mine. I would also like to acknowledge Dakota Gold. John Odd, the CEO, is here. Jerry Aberley, our COO, is here for sponsoring this event. And for all those shareholders and supporters of Dakota who are attending, including Mary Katutsa, Jonathan Rubenstein, as we embark on our new enterprise in the historic Homestake District. I would also personally like to thank Dr. Mark Bristow, Barrick CEO, and our partner in South Dakota for being here this evening, Mark. I have enjoyed a 50-year association with the Royal Canadian Air Force and our armed forces, and I would like to thank Lieutenant General Mike Hood, retired commander of the RCF, and his wife Maurice, and Honorary Colonel John Wright, Honorary Colonel to the Chief of the Defence Staff of Canada, for attending with us this evening as well. One cannot enjoy the successes I have without the support of family. I appreciate the tutorage of my parents and grandparents for teaching me to give back. My sister Deb and her husband Russ are here from Fredericton. My chosen family are here as well. Bonnie and Rick Wool from Washington State, Ross and Tricia Beatty, and Raiden and Bob Kerr from Bolton Island, Jeff and Bedra Stimber from Kelowna, Kevin Poole from Austin, Wes Waldraven from Georgia. I want to thank you all for being here and all for your support throughout my career. To my Keats Island soulmate, Mark Lawton, to the ARC Foundation, the Jane Rule Endowment, and to all my gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered, and two-spirited family, both in Vancouver and globally, I acknowledge their support throughout my career. To my fellow inductees, Dale Corman and I have known each other for 46 years. Maureen, it's been over 30. Our inductee cohort this evening, including Phillip Mackey and Peter Risby, reflect the aspirations of our industry and of our sponsors, the Mining Association of Canada, the CIM, the PDAC, and Northern Miner, for a Canadian mining workforce that reflects the diversity of our society and the communities in which we work. I was very fortunate in 1985 that Teck gave me the opportunity to manage Silver Standard based on my professional competencies, and that allowed me to manage my destiny. At that time in '85, one could be terminated from employment for being gay. It was in 1992, Canada changed its human rights laws prohibiting discrimination on sexual orientation. The same year, the World Health Organization determined that sexual orientation was not a mental health disorder. We are fortunate in Canada that we embrace, support, and protect diversity. But these rights are not shared globally. Today, there are 69 countries that criminalize homosexuality. 36 are Commonwealth countries, and 6 maintain the death penalty. Some of these are countries where our industry companies have operations and where we could put non-disclosed employees at risk. As with our industry aspiration to support sustainable mining, our industry can also demonstrate global leadership through our core values of safety for our people and our culture of inclusion. Tonight is a celebration of our industry and leadership careers. In 1976, I opened the flap in my tent on Baker Lake and stepped out into this incredible adventure that continues to this day. To attract the talent that we require to discover and mine the sustainable resources for the world, then we will require a much larger tent and need to open those tent flaps wide to create an inclusive environment where everyone is invited to work and they are respected, valued, and empowered, as I have been. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob, for such an important, inspiring message to close off tonight. It's a message we heard throughout the evening. Maureen, you made similar remarks. Peter Risby's life exemplifies what we're talking about now. Tonight's inductees set a new standard for diversity for the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. One we will hopefully continue to strive for. But to do that, we need, as Bob says, to make the industry more diverse. We at the Mining Association of Canada are committed to doing this through Towards Sustainable Mining. Some of you may have seen an article this week in the Financial Post on this. And I know it's a priority to so many of you here tonight and the companies that you work for. If we are to meet the challenges of this century, we have to become an industry that all Canadians feel they can be a part of. Congratulations, Bob, Peter, Phillip, Maureen, and Dale. Here's to the next 200 members. Who has had an exemplary career in Canadian mining? Find the person you deem an extraordinary leader and nominate them. 2023 inductees will be announced this fall, so stay tuned. And nominations for 2024 will open next spring. So thank you all for joining us on what has been a very, very moving and inspiring evening, and for your unwavering support for the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. Thank you and good night. The bar stays open for another hour. Enjoy yourselves.
We'd like to acknowledge and thank our sustaining sponsors: Hecla, Agnico Eagle, Hatch, Dakota Gold, Franco-Nevada, Magris Performance Materials, Teck, and Yamana Gold. It is with their support we maintain our enduring presence within the Canadian mining industry. Thank you to all our sponsors for their generous contributions towards the success of this year's Canadian Mining Hall of Fame annual dinner and induction ceremony.